Well, good morning, everyone. It's 11 a.m., so we'll go ahead and get started so we stay on time. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Christine McNeil with the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. Thanks for joining our webinar paired up with Eva Garland Consulting. Angie Pollard's with us today to do our webinar on product commercialization. So thank you again. I'll turn it over to her.
All right, good morning or good afternoon-ish, everyone. Again, as Christine mentioned, my name is Angie Pollard. I'm a scientific consultant with Eva Garland Consulting and have also been in your shoes of working in a small business, trying to get some non-dilutive funding to get the R&D rolling. I just want to let you know, as we're going along through the seminar, feel free to type any questions. Christine will let me know if anything comes up, and then once we get to the end of the seminar, there will be more opportunity to ask questions too, but feel free to go ahead and send some in as it's going also. Right, so today we're going to be talking about product commercialization. I know this seems like way down the road, of course, maybe from where you're at right now in your R&D program for your technology, but of course this is the end goal. So this is kind of where you need to start, is thinking, what does that end goal look like, and then kind of working backwards from there. And so when it comes to writing these grants, this actually has to be one of your first thoughts, so you can make sure that everything that you're doing now and coming before commercialization is in line and it makes perfect sense to reach that goal. So for the agenda today, we're going to be talking about what is required regarding commercialization for your grant applications, whether or not you need a full business plan at this point in order to write these applications, and then how do you actually figure out what your market opportunity is for your technology. So for the commercialization information required, it varies a lot. It varies from phase 1 to phase 2. It also varies from agency to agency. So it's really kind of tough to tell you exactly, this is what you need always for phase 1, this is what you always need for phase 2. But I'll say that in general, for phase 1, you're trying to show commercial potential, and that you aren't required to have a fully thought through commercialization plan. But as I said, this actually varies per agency, so you may need more detail from some than the others. So for generally NIH, it's kind of a more higher level, showing that you have commercial potential, what would be the final product, giving an idea what that market looks like, and showing that there is, opportunity, a value proposition for your product. For some of your other agencies like NSF, you actually have quite a few pages devoted in your phase 1 application to fleshing out this commercial potential more than you do in, say an NIH application. So that's why I was saying it does vary quite a bit. And then for contracts, it also is a little bit different than a grant, because you'll need to be very, very focused on what does that end product look like? What are the specs of that end product? For a phase 2, across the board, you're definitely going to have a more thorough description of a commercialization plan, how you're going to get from where you are to actually getting this product on the market. So really, I guess the take home from this is read your instructions. Make sure that get your solicitation, look through and see how much information they need for which application you're applying to make sure that you give them everything that you need. Just keep in mind too, as you're thinking through how you're going to describe commercial potential in your commercialization plan, this is not like your typical research strategy, of course, where you're very scientific, very technical. You got to kind of put on a business hat at this point, and kind of be speaking in more of a business tone as you're preparing these documents. So in showing commercial potential, and generally there's a few things that you need to cover. What's the problem? So how much does this problem cost? What are the limitations of the current solutions that are out there? Putting numbers in, this is a big thing to show how large the problem is, and then where are the current solutions missing? Like, are there huge unmet need populations still based on this? And when you're pointing out limitations of the current products, make sure you're pointing out ones that your product can address. So if there's certain things that your technology is improving upon, make sure you hit heavy on those. You want to kind of paint a picture of what is life like before your technology, and then what will life be like after your technology. Where is your technology fitting in? How is it improving things? How is it making things better? What is the economic and societal impacts of your technology? Then also you want to make sure you while you want to impress the reviewers with how impactful your technology will be, you also want to show you've got some protection around your technology, whether it be trade secrets or some kind of IP strategy. Even in a phase 1 grant, you're going to want to devote a few lines to showing whether or not there's applications out there, you do have patent protection, just some idea of your strategy for that. Then it's always good, you can spell out this huge unmet need and how your technology is better than anything else out there for this right now. But it's great if you can find a key opinion leader or someone who can write a letter that pretty much states that same thing, that there's an unmet need here and that your technology is going to fill that. So it's not just you saying that, it's someone else who has a big name in the field or is very invested in this that can also back you up on this. So in regards to actually having a commercialization plan that you would have for typically for your phase 2, like I said, this is kind of a great area where you need some of this for the phase 1s, depending on the agency. I'm going to use the NIH format just to have something to describe and build upon, because the NIH format is mirrored in a lot of the other applications where you'll have some of the similar components. They might be named as something a little bit different, but content-wise, they pretty much match up. So this table here just provides a summary of the different components that are required for the NIH phase 2 commercialization plan. And I'll go through each of these separately on the following slides. So the first one, the value of the project, expected outcome, and impact. For this, again, you're describing that unmet need. The figure on the slide there is just to kind of give you an idea. These are the numbers you're looking for, like how many people are affected. What's your patient population like that's affected if you're looking at drugs, or just really detailing where this unmet need lies. You also want to have an economic burden associated with this also. Again, this is where providing letters of support to show that there is an unmet need here, that your technology can address it. Another thing that you need to be able to work in here is, here's the unmet need, and then usher in how your technology is going to be able to address that unmet need, and give the reviewers an idea of your overall plan to get there. So at the point you are now that you're asking for money and what you're asking for, where is product launch? How many years will that take? And what are the steps to get there? So they know that you have a good idea of not just what you're going to do in the current grant, but what you're going to do downstream. The next slide gives an idea that a project overview can vary, quite drastically from project to project. This gives you an idea for a therapeutic development project overview, where you have in there what you're asking for the current program. So that's the phase 2 proposed studies, and then showing what comes downstream. And be sure to overlay this with a timeline, and also give an idea of key milestones and critical milestones that you need to meet and when those will be met throughout the plan. Again, this is just showing reviewers, one, like when things will get done, and two, that you have an idea of what needs to be done to get finally your product launched. All right, the next component you generally see in the commercialization plans is company. For this, you provide a general description of your company, the founding of it, the history, what kind of funding you've had in the past, what you've done with that funding. And then you really want to set up to show that your team has the expertise necessary to support development of the technology. That doesn't mean just for the current program that you're applying for, so that whatever that grant's going to cover. This even means downstream activities. So if, like having a regulatory person on board, or somebody that's knows CMC or production or whatever you'll need as your project moves along, to show that you've got the expertise in place. So for this section, you're generally looking at using a table or just some brief bios to lay out the expertise of your team, and be sure to highlight people that have commercialization expertise. So people that have been there and done that are helping you, to show that you've got those people in place and you've identified them and they have the credentials necessary to help you move from point A to point B for this project. For the description of market and customer, so the market I generally think about starting out as what's the biggest market. So we're looking at, the world, then stepping down to US, maybe the rest of the world, whatever is, relevant to your technology. So you want to paint a picture of just how big that market is, how is it growing. Also, what's driving it, and what is actually impeding it. Give an idea of what those factors are. So just key leaders in the market right now. Just really giving an overview, general idea of what the market looks like at this point and where is it going. This information can actually be very tough to find. Market reports, of course, are like the #1 place to find it. However, they are very expensive and can be cost prohibitive for small businesses. You can often get the same information from publications, especially reviews. Often we'll have some market information. Foundation materials are a good place to also look. It really just comes down to Google searching to see what you can pull. And keep in mind that looking at the image results from your Google searches, because they often have nice figures or charts that you can pull from to get some of this information and to also use in your application. If you're working on a technology that's going to be addressing a small market, that's fine. The reviewers aren't looking for you to make some huge impact dollar-wise initially. But if the unmet need is large in comparison to the market, there's plenty of products out there that are addressing a huge unmet need, even though the market is small. And also you can talk about, even you might have a first to market product that has a smaller market, but your next generation product will be addressing a larger market. So to give you an example of kind of a market description, this is truncated somewhat, but you can see how building to say how large the market is and that it's going to grow over time. Include figures within your market description just to kind of give a visual description of the market. So for this one, we had some of the key companies with their market share there, and then also just showing the segments of the market for the different antibiotics. Then for customer, this is going to be depending on what your business plan is. So your customer could be the actual person, in the market buying the product. If you're going to actually produce yourself and market it yourself, so your customer would be the end user. For some people, it could be a potential partner. So whichever that is, you just describe if it's a potential partner, what kind of partners are you looking for? What kind of expertise would they have? Have you talked to any of these partners? And if so, providing a letter from those partners would be helpful. If you're actually going to be producing your product and selling it yourself, then just a description of that population of people that you're going to be addressing that have that unmet need. I think one of the trickiest parts for people to often address is competition. I've had several people I've talked to, they have amazing technologies, and I think because it's so different, there is no competition for them. There is always competition. Every product has competition out there. And if you don't have competition, the reviewer is going to think it must not be an important problem then, because no one else is addressing it. So for competition, you want to include both current technologies that are on the market and those in development. And for those in development, sometimes depending on how well known those that are in development are, it might go to early stage development if it's kind of a hot topic, I guess. Otherwise, I generally focus on later stage development technologies that are getting close to actually hitting the market. And of course, you want to make sure if there's already a lot on the market for this, cherry pick the ones that are going to be either showing different approaches and or the ones that are kind of the leaders in the market. And the best way to often portray your competition is just including a table, kind of give a summary of what's out there approach-wise or technology-wise, give a description of what the technology is, where it is in development, whether it's on the market or it's in clinical trials or whatever it would be, a description of the product, and then also any drawbacks so that you can highlight how your technology is going to be able to address these drawbacks and limitations. So in doing this, I generally will present my competition first, and then highlight those limitations, and then provide a vision of what your product is and how your product is then addressing those limitations to conclude that competition section.
Angie, we do have a question.
Okay.
How can small companies get help on the commercial plan if they can't afford to pay for these services by professionals? Is that something NIH can assist with?
We're getting there. So hold on, we got some slides coming up about how to get some help with this. Okay. So for the IP plan, you want to describe your current portfolio. If you've got a licensing agreement with anyone, it's good to have a letter. If it's with a university or such, if you can have a letter of support in there, just kind of stating what you're stating in your application, that there is an agreement there and what that agreement looks like. You also want to include your plans for pertaining to protection. And often if I have, the group has an attorney or some kind of firm they're working with, I go ahead and highlight their expertise also. For the finance plan, I like to overlay this with the development plan. So often I'll take my development plan figure and kind of truncate it and show how the costs come in, so that you're covering that same area of development that you've already shown them. So your current development is going to come from the grant, and then where is the money going to come downstream after that, after you finish the current project. For this, a lot of it's going to be, you guys getting estimates from maybe talking to people who have been there, done that. Maybe you've already started costing out some of the downstream activities. It's just going to be an estimate at this point. Reviewers just want to see that you have a good idea of what you think costs are going to be, and then also where's that going to come from. And always have a plan B. So you can list that you're going to get it from additional grants, or you're going to have investors come in, but always have a couple in place that you can show that you're going to do some, Series B or whatever round you're on to be able to get some financing in, and then maybe also a phase 2B grant or something like that, to show there's not all your eggs aren't in one basket when it comes to getting money. And importantly, also be conservative about your estimates of what you're putting out there, then also where you think you can get the money. For production plan, again, this is so far downstream from where you're at right now, but reviewers want to see that you have an idea of what needs to occur. And this is, of course, going to vary what you're going to do for production based on what your business plan is, again, just like it was for the customer. So if you're going to partner, production will likely be done by the partner then. So a lot of times then I highlight the fact that you're going to partner with a reputable company that is established, has products like this are in this area, so they have the infrastructure in place to be able to do the production. If you're doing it yourself, of course, just describe any special regulations that you have to meet to have your product on the market. Just a high level description though. Generally these kind of sections you're looking at maybe half a page, so it's not like you're going through a thorough production plan. Just like I said, giving reviewers an idea that high level key steps that have to be in place to get your product on the market. And for marketing plan, it's the same really with the production plan. If you're going to partner, marketing is likely then going to be in the hands of your partner, so highlight their expertise. And if you're targeting someone, of course, that's already in that area, the fact that they've got the customer base that they can build from already. Then if you're going to be selling yourself, if you already have some kind of marketing team in place, of course, you would describe that. If not, you'd kind of give a description of when you're going to get all that rolling, when would that start up, and current people on the team that potentially have former experience in that could be able to lead that process. And then all phase 2 commercialization plans like to have some idea of how much money are you going to make from this product. So, and where is that going to come from? Are you going to have a licensing deal, royalties, your direct sales, whatever form that revenue is going to take? You give an idea of where the money is going to come from, and give estimates and timing of when these funds are going to come, when the revenue is going to be achieved. And for this, again, be conservative. You're not going to come out right away and take 50% of the market. So just make sure your estimates is your market entry. Maybe you're going to take less than 5% of the market initially, and then, kind of build from there. So you generally want to look 5 years out to see how much revenue you'll generate in the first 5 years after launch. And then if you have any partners that you had been talking to, or anyone that can, if someone's going to do distribution for you, that can provide a letter to be able to support your claims in this section. Right, so just some quick do's and don'ts for commercialization plans. So do provide a thorough report on your competition, both existing and future. So you kind of hit on this already, but do have a nice laid out, table or whatever description of your competitors, and then have it so that you can then address the limitations of those current technologies with your presentation of your product. What you don't want to do is tell everyone that you have no competitors, because reviewers are going to jump all over that if they see that in the application. So make sure you provide some sense of competition, do a thorough search to see what's out there, and thoroughly describe them and show their limitations. Do provide conservative estimates of market potential. Don't greatly overestimate the potential. So based on our attached letters of support, we are confident that 10 hospital systems will adopt our initial product at an average deal of 100,000K each. Sorry, 100K each. Don't say something like, we expect a following product launch. Our product will secure 40% of the 1 billion hospital market. So that would be a gross overestimation of what a new product could achieve upon market launch. So even if you tend to be less conservative about it for the application, maybe run it by a few people to see how they feel about what you are suggesting for your market potential. And one more, do name names and credentials of individuals who will come on board as technology advances to commercialization. Don't state that you're going to fill these holes whenever you find them. So in order to ensure the current program informs downstream development and supports commercialization, we have assembled a team of consultants with expertise in regulatory approval, and then of course name names and commercialization. Don't state that you're just going to bring on these people when you need the expertise and then identify people at that time. It's always better to have those people identified so you can show what credentials that they have and to show that they're actually going to be able to fulfill that, fill that gap that you have in your team. All right, so do I need a full business plan in order to generate a commercialization plan or submit an application? So I guess it's, again, in kind of a gray area. If you don't have a business plan, you at least need to know the basics of how you're going to get your product from where you're at now to on the market, to getting it commercialized. And there are several places you can go to get some help with that, to get someone, to kind of sit down with you and help you outline those steps. And there's some listed below there on this slide for you to look into. And I talked to Christine some about this to kind of figure out the best place to point you guys to. So you do have a small business development center. If you're in the Lexington area, there is the technology commercialization office there. And then you have also the RISE program. And the next slide, because there's a lot of contacts for the RISE program, gives you the different people that you can contact for that based on some different areas. So there is help out there. If you don't have this expertise in-house, it's good to sit down and talk to someone that has that entrepreneurship business background to be able to help you kind of start outlining these steps. There's also some help, and as I mentioned, a lot of the applications don't need as much for phase 1, but for phase 2, you're going to have to, be ready to pony up with some commercialization strategy. And so, in getting ready for phase 2, if you're pulling together the commercialization plan, there is some assistance in various areas for that also. Phase 1 awardees, if you actually get your phase 1 application from NIH, NSF, and DoD, there are different programs that they have to help write your phase 2. I actually participated in the niche assessment program when I was working for a small business. pretty much they partner you up with someone to do kind of a review of your technology, and they reach out to key opinion leaders, potential partners, and then they also do all the digging through market reports to give you a nicely spelled out, this is what your market looks like, this is what people are saying about your technology, and then they also give an idea of what you could likely sell your product for, and what kind of penetration of the market you could suspect or expect to get. And that is done through an application process that I think they release kind of toward the beginning of each year. I checked the end of last week and they had not opened it up for this year. And each year they accept, I think it's 177 phase 1 awardees into this, so there are limited spots for it. So if you see it open up and you have a phase 1 application, then better go ahead and get the application in. For NSF, phase 1 awardees get paired up with some people to help them with their phase 2 application, and you've got, there's kind of a cap on hours with this. You meet with them during your NSF workshop that you have to go to if you get a phase 1 award, and then you also have some additional time with them that you can have them look things up for you to be able to pull together your commercialization plan. And DoD also has some specific assistance, and that varies throughout their different branches. There's also I-Course, which is a mentoring program that's usually for several weeks, and you don't have to have a phase 1 or anything for this. Currently, NIH and NSF both have I-Core programs, and so you can look into those as a way to get some kind of a entrepreneur boot camp experience. Another way you can do is just recruit a team yourself. So look for some people in your area or out there that have done similar products or are experiencing commercialization to kind of build your own team to be able to reach out to and assist you. All right. And then how do you figure your actual market opportunity? One way is to get expert opinions. So people that, like I said, have been there, done that, they can pretty easily generate an idea of what the market looks like, what you can expect since they've had products on the market also in that area, and they can really help to lead you down the road to be able to identify what is the value proposition and what can you expect for your market potential. If you're going on your own to do this, I mentioned obtaining the market reports are difficult, but you'll need to get a hold of current market information to be able to identify what your market looks like. As I mentioned, the market reports are several $1,000s, so generally that's not the way to go to get a lot of that information from the market reports. I find that a lot of times they release just enough information from the market reports online to be able to pull together some of what you need to be able to identify your market potential. You might be able to get access to the market reports from the library. Some areas do have kind of a biotech library and such that keep these on hand for you to access. I mentioned secondary sources, potentially reviews that might have the market information in them. The image searches for Google, if you're looking up antibiotic market size, make sure you click also on that image and see if there's anything helpful from those search results. And then also, Christine said that they're happy to also assist in obtaining access to market reports, and they'll do what they can to see if they can get what you guys need for the information. So in defining your market opportunity, you have to think about addressable market versus total market. So this kind of goes back to that commercialization plan do and don't of saying that you're going to get 40% of this $1 billion market. That's your total market. It's when you're describing your market, you need to say how big the total market is, but then there's this addressable market, and this is the market that you're actually going to be able to get some traction in. So you're going to define what the actual target market is for your product out of that larger total market. And you want to be able to clearly define the size of this addressable market, and this all comes down to how much information you're able to dig up. And unfortunately, there's some areas that they just don't keep real good numbers on. So you just kind of have to do your best for if there's other products that are targeting your addressable market, and what are their sales like and how long have they been on the market. Sometimes you really have to pull together different pieces of information to be able to really define this. And generally when you're doing this, you want to take a bottom-up approach. So start with the price of your product and how many units that will be sold at that price. This allows you then to, generate some idea of what your market opportunity is. You also want to think about your current market versus your future market. So you have your first to market product. It might not be, your blockbuster product, but it's, giving you some kind of proof of concept of your technology and kind of the easier road to hoe at that point to get your technology to market. But then there could be other ones rolling out after that, your next generation. So think about your long-term markets and what that's going to look like also. So you're initially going to describe that first to market product, but then if that's not going to result in a huge revenue stream, your next generation or follow-on products will then contribute to continued revenue. All right, and so then next steps, we've got I think it's our 5th seminar in this series coming up on May 14th, which will be helping you to pull together the supplemental documents that go along with your application. There's a slew of them, and they're often, reviewers don't just skim over them. They are very supportive to your application, so it's important to make sure you have strong supplemental documents along with the larger portions of your application. All right, and thank you for your time, and I'll go ahead and take any additional questions.